Of course, once again, we are talking about Blake Lively, you guys, because this situation that she is in with Justin Baldoni, this legal battle, it's not going away anytime soon. And of course, there is more being said online about the lawsuit, stuff that Blake is doing, Justin. I mean, you guys, it's never ending, but we're going to get into all of the new updates. To catch you up to speed quickly, all of this started during the production of It Ends With Us, a film Blake was starring in and Justin was directing. Blake accused Justin of creating a hostile and inappropriate work environment, everything from him improvising intimate scenes without consent to inappropriate behavior off camera. She filed a formal complaint and then a lawsuit, and in response, Justin hit back with a massive $400 million defamation suit, accusing her, Ryan Reynolds, and their publicist of running a smear campaign against him. Since then, it's only gotten messier, and now we're getting new information that's making headlines all over again. Like, seriously, the last 5 months of this lawsuit has been absolutely insane. Just when you think there can't possibly be any more new information in this case, we get new information. So here's what's just come out, and it's a lot. One of the biggest bombshells is that Blake actually filed a secret lawsuit last year under a shell company called Van Zandt Inc. This wasn't public at the time and didn't name any defendants, but it let her team legally subpoena communications from Justin's former publicist, Stephanie, which is how she had text messages in the complaint the New York Times reported on back in December. There had been a lot of speculation surrounding how she was able to receive those text messages, as the legal documents claimed that it had been obtained through a subpoena. But everyone was like, how is that possible? There's nothing filed prior to December. So what? How did they get these text messages? But there in fact was. It was just under this shell company called Van Zandt Inc. Now, if you don't remember, these messages were Justin and his team allegedly talking about plans to destroy Blake and things like, we can bury anyone, basically suggesting a coordinated effort to take her down behind the scenes. At least that's how Blake and her team were painting it out in her complaint against Justin Baldoni, which his legal team has fought back against, claiming the messages were cherry-picked in order to fit her narrative. So let's talk about Van Zandt Inc. Van Zandt is a Delaware-based shell company with minimal public records. California corporate filings list Blake under the name Blake Reynolds as the CEO, and the company was used to file the anonymous lawsuit that enabled the subpoena of Justin's former publicist's communications. Blake's legal team defends the use of Van Zandt Inc. as a legitimate means to uncover evidence of a smear campaign, stating that Doe lawsuits are common and entirely appropriate legal tools. However, Justin's attorney, Brian Friedman, criticized the tactic as an abuse of the process and a way to obtain documents without proper notice. More specifically, he said, Miss Lively and Mr. Reynolds' company Van Zandt had nothing to do with this case and they knew it, Friedman told Deadline on Monday. This sham lawsuit was designed to obtain subpoena power without oversight or scrutiny, and in doing so, denied my clients the ability to contest the propriety, nature, and scope of the subpoena. Having filed more than his fair share of Doe suits over the years and taken slings and arrows for his tactics, Friedman added, there is nothing normal about this. Officers of the court have a duty of candor to the court and an obligation not to file fictitious lawsuits that have no basis in fact or law. A party with no connection to these proceedings asserting a breach of contract against another party they claim not to be able to identify does not qualify. This was done in bad faith and constitutes a flagrant abusive process. Basically, in September 2024, this shell company, Van Zandt Inc., which, as we know, is now linked to Blake Lively under her married name Blake Reynolds, filed this anonymous lawsuit in New York. This Doe lawsuit did not name the defendants, like I said, but allowed her legal team to subpoena communications, and Deadline actually published the complaint from Van Zandt, which read, "This action arises out of an ongoing campaign to damage plaintiff's business and plaintiff's reputation. Upon information and belief, the Doe defendants have certain contractual and confidentiality obligations and obligations of good faith and loyalty to plaintiff regarding plaintiff's business and reputation by way of oral promises and/or written agreements. Despite these obligations, the Doe defendants have undertaken direct efforts to contravene these agreements and instead have participated and may continue to participate in efforts to harm plaintiff, including by failing to act in plaintiff's best interest, taking actions to their personal benefit at plaintiff's expense, failing to freely communicate with plaintiff regarding matters that impact plaintiff's business and reputation, and disclosing to third parties and failing to keep strictly confidential plaintiff's confidential and/or private information. This conduct constitutes breach of the agreements and obligations owed by the Doe defendants to plaintiff and has caused significant reputational and economic damages to plaintiff. This complaint seeks to recover compensatory economic and non-economic damages as well as other appropriate remedies against the Doe defendants. So this secret lawsuit gave her the ability to subpoena private communications. And she is sticking to her guns here, not backing down from this, as her team told People this wasn't a decision made on a whim. It was months in the making, the source says. She knew there would be backlash and she prepared herself for how mentally and emotionally difficult it would be, adds the source, but she can't go through life knowing she didn't stand up to something she believed was wrong. As a mom, she never wants her daughters to stay silent in the face of injustice, says the source. Right now, she's taking it one day at a time and staying focused on her number one priority, her family. Now, despite all of this coming out and everything that's been said about Blake thus far through all this lawsuit drama, she's still earned a place on Time magazine's list of the 100 most influential people. In a statement to Time, lawyer Sherilyn Ifill wrote about Blake Lively, stating, "I don't know the Blake Lively of the red carpet or the Met Gala. I never watched Gossip Girl. The Blake Lively I know is a philanthropist and a student of our country's most intractable problems." She and her husband Ryan Reynolds reached out in 2019 to make a contribution to the NAACP Legal Defense Fund. "I have been getting a few of these calls as our work fighting against voter suppression and police brutality was receiving national attention. I'm always curious about the kind of research famous people do before they make that cold call to offer their support. The ones I have remained in relationship with are those who, like Blake, really did their homework. I admired immediately her curiosity and her sincere work to understand the conditions that shape this country. I remember an early conversation in which she expressed frustration that so much of our nation's history was not part of the instruction she had received as a student. Her commitment to filling those gaps and becoming the most fully informed and prepared citizen is what I appreciate most about her. Blake is a serious person. She's a risk taker, and she's committed to moving this country forward for her children and for mine." Now, Blake actually posted about this on Instagram. She shared this image of her from Time 100 and said, "It's an honor to be acknowledged on the Time 100 list for 2025. To be written about by the great Sherilyn Ifill is not something I take lightly. Her work has shaped our nation. Who she is as a human, woman, mother, leader, fighter, healer, empath, risk taker, and dream maker has shaped my heart and also my stamina to never stop believing in a future that's better and safer for everyone. Thank you, Time, and thank you, Sherilyn Ifill, for one of the most surreal and meaningful moments of my life. In this honor, my 10-year-old self is pretty blown away right now." Now, of course, some people were saying this was possibly a way for her to try and redeem her image given everything that is going on in this legal battle. Which isn't the first time someone has said something like this about Blake, because not too long ago we talked about how she went to that donut shop and people felt like that was a publicity stunt to try and make her look more personable or something, more down to earth, but it ended up just getting that donut shop investigated because she wasn't wearing a hairnet, so it wasn't exactly like this situation that was about to make her look the best. But looking at this Time article, some were thinking, you know, maybe this was just another thing that she was trying to do, maybe to get ahead of the story of her kind of sneakily trying to subpoena Justin's former publicist's text messages. But honestly, what this is telling me is that her lawyers are working their tails off, because this is stuff I've never heard of before. I mean, I'm sure that if you guys are in law school or you are a lawyer, you might know about this type of tactic. But I just feel like when everyone was talking about how did she get these text messages, how did she subpoena, everyone was just like, there has to be something else that happened because there's no lawsuit when there was. I feel like I never heard once someone say, oh, there was a Doe lawsuit maybe filed for her to get these text messages. So it just sounds like her lawyers know what they're doing. They seriously have some tricks up their sleeve with this case. But I want to know what you guys think about all of this. Let me know your thoughts. I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you in the next video. Bye, guys.